Alabama Crimson Tide is on top of the rankings once again to make the playoffs this season. I've got college football analyst John Martin from sportscapping.com on with us now to break down his season predictions for the Tide. John, thanks again for joining us. Bama is playing in what a lot of people would say is the toughest division in football. They're playing in the SEC West, of course. Where do you see Alabama taking a scratch this season, or at all? What games are on your radar?
Man, you're right. The SEC West this season, I think you could make a case for all but Mississippi State to be in contention. That's how deep it is. Really, every game, almost every game within the SEC West could be an upset potential, but there's a few that stand out to me for Alabama the most. They actually draw two of the toughest teams from the SEC East in Georgia and Tennessee. So not only do they have that brutal SEC West slate, they also got the top two teams in the East. That makes the schedule even more difficult. But they play at Georgia, at Texas A&M, and at Auburn this year. They're 2.5-point favorites at Georgia, 2.5-point favorites at Auburn, 5.5-point favorites at Texas A&M. I actually believe they're going to lose two of those three games. Can't tell you exactly which ones. Texas A&M, the team I believe is going to be very improved this season. Plus, Texas A&M will be off a bye that week. And Alabama, they got to play four teams that are off byes this year, and they only get one bye themselves. Three of those teams they play in the SEC that are off byes. So their schedule in general is just brutal, but those three games, Georgia, Texas A&M, Auburn, I have them losing two of those three.
I actually completely agree with you there, John. I mean, I could very easily see them losing at Auburn, at Georgia. There's a lot of buzz, too, that if teams take two losses in their regular season that they won't make the playoffs. But if Bama takes the SEC title and they also have two losses, I just don't see how they can be out of that playoff picture. Do you think that the playoffs have become so competitive that we might not see Bama if they take two losses?
Not yet. Not yet. A two-loss SEC team, if they go on to win the SEC title, to me is about the same as a one-loss Big 12 team, a one-loss Big 10 team, just because the conference is so much tougher. So if an SEC team with two losses goes on to win the conference title game, I think they belong in the 4-team playoff.
All right, week one, Alabama hosts Wisconsin, as you just mentioned. It should be a great non-conference game for everybody to get excited about to start off the season. Alabama's a 10.5-point favorite in this game. And you know what, John? I just don't like playing Bama on the spread. There's so much hype around this team and how fierce their home field is. But I think I'm going to fade them in this game. I mean, they only covered 5 of their last 14 games last season. Do you like a side on this game?
I actually do lean towards Alabama in this one, but as a general rule for me, though, I do not back Alabama that often, just because you're right, the hype on them is so much that they're laying numbers that are very tough to cover. The biggest reason for me on taking Alabama here is because Wisconsin. I'm not big on Wisconsin this year. They lose a lot. They do not have a quarterback either, and they're going to have to make some plays to be able to stay with Alabama, and Alabama's always stout against the run. So Wisconsin's going to be pretty one-dimensional. I just can't see Wisconsin scoring enough points to stay up with them. And with Joe Stavi still as a quarterback in Wisconsin, I just don't think he can make enough plays to stay with them.
All right, so your overall thoughts on the Alabama Crimson Tide this season. You've already mentioned a little bit about Georgia and Tennessee having to play those guys, but they're really young. Do you think Alabama's going to be on top this season?
I do. I think it will be very close, though. I don't think they're running away with it. I know they only returned 10 starters this year, so they got a lot of new faces, especially on offense. Only 3 starters back on offense. I think their offense, after a record-setting year last year, 485 yards per game, I think they're going to take a big step back, especially with the loss of Amari Cooper and TJ Yeldon. I think they'll still have a strong running game with Derrick Henry, but their quarterback play is not going to be as good. And that said, their defense is going to be better. They did give up 537 yards to Ohio State, 630 yards to Auburn last year. So, I mean, those numbers are astronomical for Nick Saban defense. But they got 7 starters back on D. 8 of their top 10 linemen and 6 of their top 7 linebackers, so they're going to have a very strong front 7. I think this will be one of the best defenses in the country, if not the best. So they can get. I got them going 10-2. I got them losing a couple of those road games, but I also have Ole Miss and LSU tying them at 10-2. The difference there is going to be Alabama hosts Ole Miss and LSU. That's going to give them the tiebreaker to get in the SEC championship game. Alabama's going to go on to win the SEC championship again, and I think they're going to get in the 4-2 playoff.
Expert analyst John Martin from sportscapping.com. Thanks again for joining us and for the best betting edge on the college football season. Keep it locked right here with us at Sportsbook Review.